In this video, we will show you how to replace your AC condenser on this Ford Fusion. This will be located along the front of your vehicle. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We want to mention, you do have to make sure that the AC system has been professionally evacuated. You do not want to have Freon pressure inside the AC system while you continue. The service ports are right along the passenger side front of your engine compartment. Under the hood, you're going to see your negative battery terminal right back here. We're going to loosen the 10mm nut, remove it from the battery, and set it aside. For this, it's easiest if you use a ratcheting 10mm wrench. We'll just put it right onto that 10mm nut in there. Next, we're going to reach in here, we'll lift this up and slide it aside. Just give that a quick inspection. If you see any funny colors, it's probably corrosion, and if that's the case, you want to take care of it. Moving along from there, along the front of your engine compartment, we're going to remove this plastic panel. The plastic panel is held in place with several push clips making their way across and across the front. To remove your push clips, you can use pretty much anything as a small prying device. You can use a screwdriver if necessary. I'm using a trim tool. Just go ahead and start pulling out the center to unlock each of them. Once it's unlocked, you can remove the entire thing. A quick inspection and set it aside. Continue on down the line. Take hold of that panel, remove it. Quick inspection, set it aside. Now with that out of the way, there's going to be two alignment tabs that hold the radiator in place along the top. There's one right here. For this, we'll just take hold of that, give it a little twist counterclockwise to remove it. If you need to, you could use some pliers. There we are. A quick inspection, set it aside, do the same to the other one. All the way over towards where your washer fluid reservoir is, following those AC lines, you're going to find a mounting bracket with a T27 mounting screw holding the bracket in place. Go ahead and remove that bolt. Now for the next mounting bolt, it's going to be easiest to gain access to if you were to just go ahead and remove the engine cover. For that, we'll lift straight up on it and pull it out of place. Now we're going to follow those AC lines just down along the passenger side of the fan shroud. You're going to find that there's a 10mm headed mounting bolt holding the AC line bracket in place. We can remove that bolt. I'm just going to use a magnet to reach down here and grab that. Quick inspection, set it aside. From under the front of the vehicle, we're going to remove the forward lower panel. Starting along each side of the vehicle, you're going to find two 7mm bolts just inside of the groove ahead of the inside fender liner. After you've removed the mounting bolts, continue on along each side. You're going to find a couple push clips. Push clips come in all different shapes and sizes. For these ones in particular, I'm going to press in on the center to unlock it, and then I should be able to remove the outer portion as well. Just pull those out, quick inspection, set them aside. After completing both sides of the front bumper cover, we'll continue on making our way across the center along the front. Using our 7mm here, we can remove the mounting bolts. Now, making our way across the center of this panel, you should find 8 10mm headed mounting bolts making their way across. For the final bolt, we'll be holding onto the shield. We can remove that bolt. Now let's take hold of that shield. We're going to start pulling it out and away. With the panel out of the way, let's continue on along the line here. You can see several push clips to dislodge. Pop that free, quick inspection. Continuing from here, we want to have some support handy because we have to remove the entire lower support underneath the radiator, AC condenser, and the intercooler. Essentially, what we're going to do is apply a little bit of pressure upward, remove all 4 bolts, 2 on each side, and then remove the panel. We'll have the support underneath the radiator and condenser. We're using a 13mm for this. Now we'll start lowering this down. All right, as soon as it feels as though things want to stop, we're not going to go too much further than that. We have to lift up on the radiator, intercooler, and AC condenser, pulling it away from this shield, slide it out of place. There we go. It's one side. Let's get the other one. Now we'll just get our support under here. Now we're going to have a look along the front of each side of the intercooler area, which is the front cooler on this system. We have to dislodge the intercooler tubing from the intercooler. You're going to find that there's a clamp holding the large hose in place. Use a 7mm to loosen the clamp. Now let's try to slide the hose off of there. Up on this a little bit here, slide that right off of there. Now on each side of the intercooler, you are going to find 2 8mm headed mounting bolts, but typically I like to wait on removing the bolts until I have both of the hoses off. So we're going to go over to the other side of the vehicle and repeat the process removing the hose. We have both hoses off of the intercooler. It's time for those 4 8mm headed mounting bolts. Same process on the other side of the vehicle. With the intercooler hose off of the passenger side of the intercooler, you want to look just above it. You're going to find a wiring harness with an electrical connector. Let's disconnect it. For this electrical connector, it has a locking tab just up along the top. We're going to press that in and try to pull this out of place. A quick inspection for corrosion. Now that we have all the mounting hardware off of this, we're going to have to carefully lift up on the radiator and the fan assembly, bringing the fan assembly over the subframe of the vehicle. Once you have that up and over there, it should give you enough room across the front of the intercooler. You can take hold of it and slide it out of place. Just give this a little wiggle. With the intercooler out of the way, we can see the AC condenser and the AC lines. We'll start with the bottom one here. We'll be using a 10mm for the mounting nut. That's actually located just above the line. It's a little bit difficult to see. There's that one. A quick inspection of the hardware as we continue. Now we're going to remove the line from the AC condenser. For this, you just want to take hold of it, give it a little wiggle, and slide it out and away. Now we can remove the upper line. For this mounting nut, it's a 13 millimeter. Slide that away. Now it's time for the mounting hardware that holds the AC condenser to the radiator. On each side of the AC condenser and radiator, you're going to find a 13 millimeter headed mounting stud. Let's repeat the process on the other side of the AC condenser. Now, continuing from here, we're going to take hold of the AC condenser and we're going to lift it up just a little bit and pull it away from the radiator. You have to lift it up because the radiator itself has two small hooks, one on each side, holding the AC condenser in place. There it is, friend. Now on the bench, we're going to prepare our brand new AC condenser for installation. Looking along the side that has the area for the lines, you're going to find that you have to install your two mounting studs. In your kit, you're going to find that you have two different size studs. You want to find the one that corresponds to the hole you're working with, start it in by hand so you're sure you are not cross-threading it into the wrong position. For this stud, I'm using an inverted Torx, an E5. Okay, so right there's bottomed out with my tool. I'm only going to take it a tiny bit further here. We do not want to strip it. We just want to make sure it's seated. After you've completed one, make your way over and do the exact same thing to the other one. This one's considerably larger. Once again, we're starting it in by hand. For this stud, I'm going to be using a 5 millimeter socket. Right there's bottomed out. Just a tiny bit further. Now that we have the studs installed on the AC condenser, we'll remove our two protective plugs. Set those aside. Continuing on, we need to add 1 ounce of clean PAG oil directly into the AC condenser. I have some pre-measured here. We'll pour it right into the port and then we can install this in the vehicle. Before we can install the AC condenser, you need to pay attention to each of your two lines. On those lines, you're going to find a gasket that's inside of the line. You want to double check each one of these, confirming that they're not ripped or torn or swollen in any way. If they are, you need to replace them. Typically, it is a good idea to replace them, but you want to at least inspect them and then lubricate them with some clean PAG oil. Let's start bringing the AC condenser up in a position. We're going to have to bring it up nice and high, up and over each one of the hooks, one on each side of the radiator, and slide it down, aligning our mounting ports. After confirming both sides of the AC condenser are latched into the hooks on the radiator, it's time for the two mounting studs. We'll start them both in and snug them up. Okay, right there's bottomed out, just a tiny bit further. Same thing for the other one. Now we can get this line in position. We'll start on the mounting nut, snug it up. The torque for this is 177 inch-pounds, but it's a little difficult to get a torque wrench in here. If you find you have a hard time, just make sure it's nice and snug. Get our 13 millimeter mounting nut. The top line snug. Repeat the process for the lower line. 10mm nut for this one. The torque for this is going to be 97 inch-pound. Okay, right there's bottomed out. Now it's time to install the intercooler. We'll take this and get it in position. As for the 4 mounting bolts, the 2 bolts that are on the passenger side are shorter than the 2 bolts that are on the driver's side. Short bolt. Moving over towards the driver's side, we have the 2 larger bolts. Along the passenger side of the intercooler, we have the connector. We need to make sure that we press this in, listen for our click. There we are. It's time for the 2 hoses for that intercooler. Line it up, press it on. Once it's on there, you want to make sure it's nice and tight by using that clamp. Okay, right there is bottomed out. Just going to take it a tiny bit further. If when tightening these clamps, it feels as though it skips on you, you have to replace the clamp. That means it's stripped out and it's not going to function properly. This one's tight. Let's do the exact same thing on the other side of the intercooler. It's time to prepare to install the lower radiator support beam. For this, you want to pay attention to the support beam. There's going to be a port on each side for your rubber grommet that's attached to the radiator to slide into. As we're aligning those, we're also aligning the support with its mounting brackets that are located on each side of the vehicle. Once everything's pressed up into position, start in all 4 of the mounting bolts and then we'll snug them up. We're going to continue on to the flap that makes its way across the front that had a couple push clips holding it in place. We'll start with the far end here, pressing it in along the way. I did break one of my push clips, so I'm just going to replace that with a new one. Now it's time for the lower splash shield. When we bring the splash shield in position, it actually goes up and above the bumper cover. So you may have to flex the bumper cover down while installing this. We'll start from one side, starting it in, working our way all the way across. Once you feel as though you have it in position, we'll continue on with the mounting bolts across the center area. There should be one inside of each one of these center ports. Ours were missing. Before tightening that hardware, let's start in the rest of the mounting hardware as well. We have some 7mm bolts making their way across the front of the bumper cover. And now we have 2 for each side panel. Each side of the bumper cover should have a couple push clips. There we are. We've got all those in there. Let's continue on tightening all the mounting bolts. It's time to install the mounting bracket for the AC line, mounting it to that fan shroud. This is the 10mm headed mounting bolt. We'll start it in and snug it up. There we are. Now it's time for the mounting bolt that holds the AC line to the body of the vehicle. This is the Torx headed mounting bolt. Start it in, snug it up. We're done on that side of the engine. Let's reinstall our engine cover. It's time for the radiator alignment tabs. For these, you want to take the very end of it, slide it down and through the upper rubber grommet on the radiator. You may have to align the radiator properly by moving it forward or rearward. Just get this pressed in. Turn it clockwise, listen for a click. Try to turn it counterclockwise to remove it, confirming it's properly secured. Install your forward shield. For this, it's going to have several push clips making their way all the way across. For each one of the push clips, you want to drive in the outer portion and then lock it in with the center. Let's reattach the negative battery terminal. We'll push this all the way down onto the battery terminal end there, and then tighten our 10mm mounting nut. Take hold of the terminal end, give it a wiggle, make sure it's properly secured. Okay friend, we finished the installation of our AC condenser. The next thing that you have to do is have the AC system recharged with R134 refrigerant. Let the person know that you've added 1 ounce of clean PAG oil to the AC condenser during the installation process. After the system's been filled, go ahead and test the functionality. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.